And you're very welcome back to the CESI Staffroom. A couple of weeks ago, we were joined by Helen O'Kelly, and she started talking to us about Teams. The conversation started with Teams. The conversation had intended to be just about Teams, but we got stuck into OneNote and then touched on Teams towards the end of the conversation. So we had to bring her back, and we promised we'd bring her back just to talk about OneNote by itself. And there's a bit of method to the madness here, because next year, we're already thinking about next year's students, and I'll be doing a tutorial on how to upload students and bulk upload students to either your systems, whether they be G Suite or 365. But in the whole process of uploading, now your students are all uploaded. Now you're going to have to set up OneNote. So we've brought Helen in again at great expense. Helen, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Okay, and thank you for that intro. So I'm just going to get straight in here and just make sure you're. I'm going to look at setting up OneNote Class Notebook. So Hassan, you kept on asking me, but how do you get started? How do you get started? So we're going to get started here.
Yeah, they're brilliant, because that's one thing I'm always asked. It's like, and because we're stuck into this, we're in knee deep in tech. So our step one is everybody else's step 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So that's why I kept on pushing you on what is literally step 1, and that's really what we're going to be covering today.
Okay, so step 1 is you have to set up a class notebook. Okay, and to distinguish that from a OneNote notebook. A class notebook allows you to include your students. Okay, now you can only get class notebook if you and your students have an Office 365 account. You can download OneNote for free, but you'll only, you'll only basically be able to set up OneNote files for yourself. Okay, so that is the very first thing. You have to talk to your IT coordinator and or whoever is doing your tech support, and make sure that you have a Office 365 account. So that is step 1. So once you have that all set up and your students have Office 365 accounts as well, okay, so they will have their email addresses, then you are in place to do the next step, which is actually creating a class notebook. So what I want you to visualize in your head is you've got a folder, the good old ring binder folders oozing with pages and papers, and that you might have sections for yourself as the teacher. Okay, you might have had sections for each of the students. Okay, and you would have another section for handouts that you wanted to distribute. And what you wouldn't have had in these sort of paper folders that are sitting on your desk or on a shelf would be a collaboration space. And that is one of the killer sort of apps, in the sense that OneNote Class Notebooks and any of these digital portfolios have, is that ability to collaborate online. Okay, so once you log in to your Office 365 account, you'll see up in the top left-hand corner is the little app launcher. So what I would have clicked was, when you see all the icons, when you log into your email, if you scroll right across, you will see OneNote Class Notebook, that icon there. Okay, and so that's all I've done, is I've clicked to go in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is step through. Imagine it's August and you've got your first year, your CSB teacher, and you want to set it up. So the very first thing you need to do is create a class notebook. So we'll click on that there. Now, there's a few kind of top tips that you have to be aware of. So you've got your first year's CSP class, you've got all the names and they all have their email addresses. That's great. Now you are going to be with these first years right through to third year. So it is a good idea. The naming convention is really important of your class notebook. So what I tend to do is I call it, and I'm a very mean teacher, right? You're telling them when they're going to be doing their junior cycle exams on their day 1. So, and I mean that on day 1 of when you see them. So let's call it junior cycle. So we're now in 2020. So they will be doing a junior cycle 2023, okay, CSPE, okay. So you can do something like that, or you might decide to call it CSPE AC 2023. What you have to remember is you've got to see it from the student perspective, because later on they're going to have a whole list of class notebooks, and they want to see the naming convention of it. So you have to imagine that they're looking at a shelf of class notebooks, and you want to name it correctly. But so there's that perspective. It's your perspective of keeping it for the next 3 years. Okay, so then you click next.
Is it a good idea, just to pause for 1 second, is it a good idea that the entire staff room has the same naming convention? So is this a conversation before, like the step one is to have the conversation with the staff, agree on a naming convention, and then start naming your notebooks?
Yes, I think it would be definitely a best practice. Okay, so so there's a consistency from the student's perspective, and then also and that might be hard to manage. So you might have someone that is just kind of keeping a track, like say the junior cycle coordinator or something, so that students have a consistency of experience. And the same will go, and it's hard work to do. The next thing that I'm going to suggest is that teachers, have a sort of a consistent approach to how they're using their class notebooks, okay? Because teachers will have different ways of doing things, plus their subjects will have different, different sort of expectations and ways inherent in how they would teach it. So, as the IT coordinator and the teams, or whoever you decide to do that, it would be a good idea, if all possible, to make it as sort of as standardized as is possible. And I appreciate what that involves, and to get that right. But it's certainly worth thinking about. So that's a good point, Hassan. Thank you. Okay, so we're now in the second point here. So the notebook overview. Okay. So this is just, we're going through the wizard. So what's going to be set up in this class notebook, as in any class notebook that you're going to get, is there's going to be a collaboration space. And what is important is that both the teacher and the students can edit the content. Okay. Now later on, I'm going to show you how we can lock it down, because I have first-hand experiences that, my goodness, they can. Students can really understand how that collaboration space can work. So if you're in a classroom, in a computer lab, or wherever you're doing it, they could be working. There's sort of a whole undercurrent of things happening if you don't lock it down when you don't want them to be there. So that's important, but it is very powerful. Then what you have to do then another section is the content library. So this would be, and I'm thinking of green schools here. You might have handouts that you would have obviously handed out in class. But what you can do is, and there might be times where that's still an important exercise to do, but you can also, publish them, up on the content library, so that in the inevitable way of things, that they either end up in lost property, or at the bottom of a bag, or a locker, or all three at some point in their life, you will have the handout here. Okay, so that, and that is up to you what you put there. So it's just very useful. For example, I put in a revision section there, so you can have your revision, timetable, and links, and so on and so forth. So again, that is up to the teacher how they want to use that. Then you have the student notebook. So this is basically, as it says, it's a private space for each student. Okay. And similarly to the content library, the content library, only the teacher can edit and the student can only view. And then down here in student notebooks, both the teacher and the student can edit their own content. Okay. But importantly, students cannot see other students' private spaces. So it is it's an area where they can submit their homework. There's reflections and so on. So that's the sort of standard step there, and we'll go on to the next step. So all you do is click on next. Now you might want at this point to add another teacher. You may not. You'll know yourself the situation. Now, what can also happen is that you might start off being the only teacher, and later on, somebody else joins for whatever reason. You can always add them at an additional at a later stage. So for the moment, I'm not going to add anybody, but also make sure that all of your teachers are on Office 365 email as well. So basically there's a whole piece of work there that has to be set in place before we do this. So we click on next. Now, here's another bit of advice I would give based on my own experiences. In our school, we would have, like, let's say, first years, okay, we'd have a group email which has all the first year's names, and I would have, at a very simple level, you could type in first years and they would all be added, and that's really handy. And all you have to do is click next and they're all added. That actually has inherent problems in it, okay? So what I would strongly advise is that you put in the students' emails, their names individually, okay? And you might think, oh, I don't want to do that. But the reason I say that is you've got to remember you're going to be using this class notebook for 3 years. There will be movement in that. Students may join the class. They may leave the class for whatever reason. And also, you see at the end of, so let's say you call them first years, okay? And then this time next year, your IT coordinator does a rollover. And so your first years are now second years, and you want to add names. So it just confuses class notebook. So the bottom line here is best practice, put in the students' names individually. Okay, student. Okay, I have a Paradigm student here. Okay, that's just a test one that I have here. And then I'm going to click next. So in my class here, I only have one student, but you can imagine you're going to put in a whole load there. Okay, now in the student's private space, you can, there are sort of default sections within there, okay? So you might be really happy and just go for it, okay? You might actually not want handouts for whatever reason, or quizzes. So you can remove this if you want. You can add your own section here, and you might have, call it My Learning, okay? Something like that, and you can have a reflection piece in there, and so on and so forth. So you can see very simply, you can just add that and do what you want. So I'm going to leave it like that, and then I click on next. So what you'll see now is next is, okay, let's have a look and see what it's going to look like. Okay, so we're looking here. This is the teacher's notebook. So the teacher will see there's a welcome page here. There's the collaboration space. There's the content library, and I have one student there. But if you had like 20 or 30 students in there, you'd see all their names there. Okay. Then if we look at from the student's notebook perspective, there's the name of the class notebook. They see the welcome page. They see the collaboration space. They see the content library, but this is what they see. So you see, like, you've got the handouts, class notes, homework, and there's the My Learning, okay? And again, later on, you might decide, oh, I might want to add on a section, or might want to rename something, or so on. The other top tip I would say, especially if you're using it over a number of years, is what I have done here is, let's go back here, okay? You realize, actually, I want to change this. Let's say we got first years. What I do now is I go first year class notes, okay? Because when, and then what I will do is at the beginning of second year, I would add another section here, and I would go second year class notes, okay? Because what happens is you get lots and lots of notes building up, and this distinguishes it. So I just cut that out now. So just keep it as simple as possible. So certainly I would, that's another sort of bit from experience here. So if we look at student notebooks, they'll see first year class notes. And what you might do there is call that first year homework, okay, as well. So that's up to you. And then all you have to do then is click create. Okay, so that's going to take a few minutes.
Is it a good idea, just while it's creating there, is it a good idea to keep things simple at the start, or do you need to plan your entire 3 years now?
I keep it simple at the start.
Okay.
Now, so you see here, you can see I've got an email sent to me that it was, there's the link, and any student that is in that class notebook will get an email sent to them with the link. Okay. Now here's another gotcha. What the students will have to do is open that link, okay, from their email, and then the first time they open it, it will open in the online version of Class Notebook. Most the students actually will, certainly the license that we have, the students only have the online version of OneNote. and as opposed to the desktop app. Okay, so in our school, up in the computer lab, we would have the desktop app version of OneNote as well. So it just, there's more function, there's a bit more functionality in the desktop app, but for today's sort of purposes, we'll just stick with the online one. So that's why there's a difference there. So what we're saying here is I'm going to open in OneNote online. Okay. You will also note here that there's this class notebook add-in. Okay, I have that installed, and that is extremely useful for teachers to distribute class notes, to do reviewing of homework in bulk. So that's another thing that you should install as well. So we're now looking at your sort of the default class notebook that you just created. So what you'll notice is in the welcome pages, the welcome section. So these are the sections here. Okay. Just again, you've got to visualize in your head that you've got a folder here. Now, if I clicked this link here, you're going to see all of the other class notebooks that I have. Okay. And so that's like your bookshelf. Okay, and that's what I'm talking about, where the students will see, all the different subjects that they have. So I would say certainly, think about, it's CSPE, JC 2023. It's History JC 2023, so that they will see their class notebooks that way. But so that's an important thing to appreciate. So you have in that list there is your bookshelf. Then you open one of your class notebooks. This is all your section tabs in here. Okay, you can click in here. Okay, now the first time you use it, it just takes a little while to load into your cache. Okay, and then there's a section within a section. You can do that. Now, what I would suggest here is you can delete these pages here once you're used to understanding it. You can delete those pages here. So you just basically go right click. I do that. Okay, permanently delete. Don't worry. These are all just default, and once you have got your head around that, then you're comfortable doing that. What you'll see there is that there was a staff notebook. That's if you're in a department, you can set up in a similar fashion. You can set up a staff class notebook as well. That's for another day. Okay. So what you could do there is you could have add a page. If you see down here, you can add a page. So you see, these are the sections, and we've added a page now to the welcome section. And what's nice is, so you might say, welcome first year. Okay. And okay, and then it automatically updates there. Now, what I really find amazing about OneNote, and what I really love about OneNote, is this is like a digital page. Okay, you can put on it what you want. Okay, you can be writing, writing, like whatever text like that. You can put in links. Okay, so explore here. All of what you can do. You can have audio. This is you giving feedback as AFL, for example. You could do maths, and you can do forms. And basically, it's a whole repository of content that you can have. All right. If you have a touch screen, device, and you have a pen, which I have too, what you can do is I'm writing here. Let's just see. Okay, it doesn't do it on this one here, but on my let's just click on draw. Okay, and we should have let's just go green. Okay, there. So you can see I have a pen that's working on this device, which is touchscreen, and that's how you can do some other comments as well. So there's all of that. You can be inserting links. You can put in videos. It just makes the whole page come alive, and so that's how it is. It's just so powerful.
And I think it's worth adding to that. The use I've had for OneNote is out of education, but just in general workflow stuff. That page is an endless page. It can be as big and as wide as you want, or it can be as like some of my notes would start there, and by the time my thought process is finished, I'm 40 sheets that way. Like, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
If I did that in Word, I'd be lost.
Yes, and that no that is really important, because to say that, because if you go to like the draw, like say you might want to draw, let's just click here, a diagram, okay, and you can go over here, and you can just, once you start, you can just go way, you can do your mind maps, and there's just so many different things you can do, and you can have them all mixed up, and I just think it's just very powerful. It's really powerful sort of paradigm shift, I think, that you can do that.
It really
So you
is.
can,
Yes, I agree.
you can so that's basically what you're doing here. So if, like say for example, now I'm going to come on to, you can just add all your pages. You can add lots and lots of pages, and you can add, and it's so simple to add pages, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just keep on going, okay? And you can add those into your different sections here, okay? So there, again, there's default stuff here. I stripped these out, these sections here, and you can have sections within sections. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here about OneNote, because I want to go back to the management of it. And
Okay.
there's, and then at another point we can start talking about, how to actually, use things in OneNote. So I'm going to go back here. This is, where I finished that wizard of creating the class notebook. There's the class notebook that I opened when I clicked that link there. So now I'm just going to go back in here, okay? Actually, and before I do that, I just have been reminded here, this class notebook add-in. This is what I was talking about here. So that's the class notebook add-in. And this is where you might have a page and you can distribute that maybe to just one student, to the whole, class, whatever you want to do, or you might distribute a section, okay? You can review student work here, okay? It'll generate here. You can also, actually, and what's important is you can, go up here. When you click on this link here, it's the same as going back here, okay? So I'll do it from here. So let's just say we want to add or remove a student, okay? So you're in, just to remind yourself, you're in your class notebook. You've clicked on the class notebook sort of add in, plug in, okay? And you can go in here, add, remove students, okay? And so that's bringing you up as if you're here, okay? So let's just see now. I don't have, so I'm not going to choose. These are all my other files, CSP, JC. Okay. So let's say I have another student now. I don't have another student to add in here. Well, actually I do. I can put it, pretend as no, I won't. Don't have another one. But what you could do is you just put in their name there if you want to add it. Okay. And imagine that Paradigm student, this one here, actually left. Okay. So now what is important is, let's say Paradigm student left midway through second year. Okay. Or for whatever reason. So you can click on here, okay, to remove it. And there's an option here to delete the student's content. Now, I don't tend to do that, because what that would do is that will delete all the content, all of the work that they have done. And I think I am very conservative when it comes to these type of things. You never know, that student may come back. You could be asked by another teacher, for their work and so on. So
yeah, you could be asked. The more advanced this gets, and the more we get more cloud-based learning and platforms, there will get a situation where one school will ring you and go, "Oh, you're a OneNote school. You wouldn't mind transferring those notes to me?" And those capabilities will happen.
I think so. I would say, I mean, I can't predict it, but I mean, just don't delete their work.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, I agree. Completely agree.
the best thing to do. So we will just go back here. Okay, so just go back down CSPE. Okay, all right. So we're just leaving that there. And then all you would do is click next. Okay, and then it will just churn through, and it will add the new student if you added one, and it will remove that student, but not their content. Now, what will happen is, when you go back into your class notebook, because you haven't removed their content, you're going to still see all of that, anything that's done there. So that's okay. That's just acceptable. Okay. Now, in a similar vein, you might, you're way down the track and you have to add or remove a teacher. It's the same principle. Okay. So you click on your subject, your junior cycle, on your class notebook. You put in their names that you want. There might be 2 or 3. and then it might not be you anymore, but you're the owner, but you can just do that, and then you click next, and then it'll be off you go.
And can I jump in there? So if a substitute teacher comes along, is there a scenario for that? Can I share my notebook with that teacher, or do I add that teacher as another teacher to that? How does that work? Or is that a thing? Or am I overthinking it?
You're overthinking it, I think.
Okay.
You basically just add them there. So if there was let's say you had a student teacher, you just add them, and then they will get an email and they will have access to it. So they'll see whatever you have at that point, and they can contribute. And then let's say that student teacher leaves and they're taken out of the system, then you could remove them from the
Okay.
Class notebook as well. Now they, depending on how your IT, whether they suspend the their email address or whatever, but you can, that's all can be worked out. But basically you're just giving them access to it. Okay. So the other thing is manage notebooks. Now this is very powerful. Okay. So this is where you're doing the lockdown. Okay. So and other things that you want to do. So you click on that manage notebooks. So this one is just, this is actually handy. You're just going straight into it. So you might decide, actually, handouts, that's not what I want. You might want to rename it. So you click on edit here, or you might want to add a section. So, you just click in here. Okay, they're now in second year. So you might go second year class notes. And then you realize, actually, I should have called that first year homework. Okay, and then I'm going to add a section, second year homework, like this. Okay, or whatever suits you. Now so you just save that. Now another aspect of the managing is, and these are things that you would do at the start, enable teacher only section group. I do this, okay, because only you, and if there's other teachers included on the class notebook, can see this section. So you just have to do this once, okay, and we will click that. So what I do is I save, you put in all your class notes, or, your test results, or whatever you want into this. Okay, I'll go back into here. So if you notice here, okay, that's what we have. I'm going to refresh this now. It might take a couple of minutes, okay, but we refresh that. And what we should see now is a teacher only section added to it. There we go. Now the students will not see this. And in here, then you can, add subsections. And what I do is I would have my, let's say my class notes for the week, or, and I would save them in here. And later on, then I distribute these class notes to the student using this class notebook. But that, again, that's sort of the mechanics of running your class notebook. That we can do at another session. At the moment, we're just doing the managing the class notebook. Now,
Okay.
is that okay?
Yeah,
Then
that's good. Yeah.
what we have here is, okay, so let's say, for example, we're in class and we're just, whatever way you're doing it, you don't need to use the collaboration space, okay? So all you do is you click lock it, okay?
What's the worst thing that can happen if you use the collaboration space?
Well, what has happened to me is that you're talking. I was in the computer lab. You're talking, trying to explain something, and then they're doing, like, they might be taking screenshots and writing something about another student,
Okay.
or just memes, or it might be they're just having fun, and it's just this. There's an undercurrent happening in the class that you're not controlling, and that's the worst kind of case scenario, and you can imagine what could be said or whatever. Okay, so so that's why from experience, I lock it down unless I want it to be opened up. And then what I do is, again, it's from experience, is you can go in here. Let's just have a look here. If you look at collaboration space here at the moment, all we have is one section here using the collaboration space here. Okay, now you can delete that section there, but what I like to do is, if I'm doing group projects, what I do is I go in here to collaboration space permissions. Okay, so at the moment there's only one section in there, but I'm going to add another section here. Okay, so let's just call it project, let's just say summer project. Okay, and we're going to have 2 or 3 students in it. Okay, so let's just say summer project group 1, and we'll just say Alan and Joe. Okay, they happen to be the 2 people in it, and you can call these whatever you want. Okay, and then what you do, if I only have 1 student here, but let's say you have the 30, what you do is you tick, like, let's say, imagine that's Alan, and then you scroll down your list and you'll see Joe, and you click those 2, and they are the only 2 students that can have access to that section. Okay, now what you might want to do is give all the other students in your class read-only section, but they're the only Alan and Joe have read-write access. They're the only ones that can edit that section, and that is another way of like really locking it down, that there's no messing there. So then
that was going to be that. Do you know what, Helen? That was going to be my next question, because collaborative space or collaboration space is really, really important, but it has to be managed.
Yes, it has to be managed. Now they will be collaborating. I mean, they are working together, collaborating in that space, and so the management of this is important, and also not only it's to make sure that nobody else, like nothing is deleted by mistake or something like that. So there's a huge amount of work that could go into a project, and someone makes a mistake, and these things happen. Okay.
I would be, if I was in that situation, that's be the first thing I'd do, is delete all. That's just being a menace. That's what you do.
Yeah. Because you just don't want tears, for a whole load of reasons, So then what we do there is you click create. Okay. And now it's an extra layer of work that has to be done, but it really is worth it, because remember, these are, at junior cycle, they have to have a digital portfolio. This is where you can, show off their work. Now I only have 1 student in my class, if you can recall, but like obviously if we had 2, that would say 2 students. If we did have 2 students there, you could have 3 students, you could have 5 students. It's up to you. You can just tick how many you want, and then you just click close, and you'll have all your group 1, group 2, whatever, how many groups you have. Okay, and then you click close, and then you go back here. Okay, and we'll refresh this here. Okay, so now if we go into collaboration space, okay, so there's our summer project. Okay, and then you as the teacher, okay, there's nothing there. We'll just add in a page here. Okay, and we'll just say summer project, and you can add in whatever you want. Okay, and then off they go doing their work. You can see all the all the projects. They can only see, like, let's say Alan is here, Paradigm student can see all of this here. Okay, plus when they go into the collaboration space, they will see that summer project there. And if you have given read access, they will be able to see the other ones, but they can't go near
so
it.
So just so I'm understanding it, if Hassan was part of your class,
yes,
and he didn't have the right to see the collaborative space, he wouldn't see. The only difference would be he wouldn't see that space there. Is that right?
So you will see, if you were in there, what you would see, you will see collaboration space at a very top level, and you would see that section there, because that everyone is able to see that one there. But you would not see summer project, because I haven't added you into group 1. But if you were in group 5 and I've set you up, you would see summer project in group 5. So that's really useful. It's very, very useful. And I'd say another point I would say, I'll show you then, because you have to do things like archiving your projects. They'll all start building up, and this gets, you have to manage, your OneNote portfolio as well. But that's another discussion for another time. Okay, and then just finally, just go back in here. Now this here, parent and guardian links. If you wanted that parents or guardians could have access, but that's a big conversation, that you need to have in school with, whoever is involved in that. But you could include that. But I mean, the way I look at it is, when I meet with my students, I say, well, look, and the parents, just if you log into the students' Office 365 account, you can go and click on OneNote and you can see all of those anyway. So, it
Yeah.
is open to them, and that is that is the link if you want to go into OneNote. And that is basically it. That's all the management, setting it up, adding and removing students, adding and removing teachers, editing your student sections as you need be, having a teacher only section so that you can save files in there that you don't want anybody to see or to distribute at over a certain amount of time. Lock down your collaboration space in general, then open up specific parts and honing in on individual students so that only they can see it. And then if you decide, you can give them more access to other people to look at it. And that is like sort of the back end of setting up a class notebook.
That's brilliant, because that's exactly what people want to know, and that's what I'm asked all the time, and that's the point I made at the start. It's all right for me and you who are immersed in this, but for a teacher coming to it for the first time, it's a different language. So they're looking at me and they're getting frustrated with me, and I'm only saying this because it does happen. They're getting frustrated with me, looking at me going, no, but where do I start? And I'm already halfway through setting up a notebook, and they're going, no, where do I start? So I think you've covered it. I think you've covered it nicely there, Helen.
Great.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
So what's next? What have we got to look forward to next, Helen? With great experience.
Well, I think what we should do, so that's, you've made a first major step there. You've set up a class notebook. I think then what I would do is like to set up, how do you run your class notebook? Okay. So what do I mean by that? So, making a page in your teacher only section, maybe doing your class plan. Now it depends on, I'm coming from the perspective, I teach computer studies, I'm teaching computer science, so I'm in a computer lab for all of my classes. But you may have devices, and so what I would say is just show you how you can run it, okay, and how you can do homework, how you can review the work that's coming back very quickly, and what I would say is, what else would we want to do? Just thinking about, how you would write comments and AFL. And oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Send students, thinking of accessibility, because you can have different, looks of the page, and the importance. Again, I'm in a computer lab, so I would share out the class notes so that students can go through the class at different paces, putting in links, videos, and so on, and everyone's going at their own pace.
So how about we do managing your notebook
Yeah.
next?
Yes,
Managing
that's
your class notebook.
managing your class notebook. Yeah. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, thank you very much. As always, yeah, it's an awful lot clearer now. And like I say, it's amazing. I use OneNote all the time. I use it for work, but to see it working in school is a touch class. And I'm
Yeah.
not a Microsoft person by any means.
Well, the way I look at it is I look at all of the different technologies and I pick and choose,
Yeah, yeah.
as does everyone. And what I think for me, when I saw this the first time, the game changer was that it's a digital page. And as you said it, Hassan, that page could
Yeah.
go way over to the right, it could go way down to the bottom. There's nothing, that stops it. And you can have multiple pages, and also the notes are there. I mean, I can show you how you can do revision notes. And I mean, every day I'm learning things, how to use this. I just think it's very, very powerful.
Helen O'Kelly, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Hassan.
So this is your information handed to you. Generally, everything tends to be in one column, so you're going to want to separate that. So you highlight the column, you split column text into columns, and you press enter. And the computer automatically puts each one with a space in between. It splits it up based on the space in between first name and surname. You create the email address, then you have to decide what you want your email address to be. So take a pause here and think about this for a second. A little bit of coding. So we type in equals, click column A, then and, but use the ampersand symbol, inverted brackets, full stop, inverted brackets, ampersand again, and you click column B. And now you would put in ampersand, open inverted brackets, and I'm putting in the year that the student is going to graduate. So if you watch as the text is being typed there, you can see the email address actually forming just above it. Now, if you can get your head around this, you're going to save yourself so much time. Put in at myschool.ie ampersand. Once you press enter, that creates the email address for you. Now, I'm just highlighting or just making the column bigger so you can see it. Now, we've done this for one. Now, you're not going to have to do this for every single student. You simply click on the drag corner of your cell and drag it all the way down to where you want it to finish. So let's look at that again. Equals, click on column A to give you your student name, and open up brackets because you want to type something in there. Close your inverted brackets, and column B, and you can see the email address forming just above where I'm typing at the minute. And I'm going to put in the year that the student graduates. I've just picked up a year at random. It's completely, you can do whatever you want. Now, I don't close the inverted brackets here because I'm going to put in the school email address. So I'm going to type in at, and whatever your school email address is or your domain is, .ie. I'm going to close the inverted brackets again. Watch what happens when I press enter. The email address is formed. Now, like I mentioned before, you're not going to have to do this for absolutely everybody in that row. All you do is you just drag the corner elastic drag marker there on the side, and you drag it all the way down to the bottom. I don't know what that button is called, but you know the one I'm talking about, the square there. Just drag it all the way down, and there we go. There's our email addresses. So now we want to put in the password. Now the password is put in with the same idea as we put in the email address. So equals, inverted commas, I'm going to put in the year that they graduate. I'm also going to type in the school name. I'm going to close the inverted commas, and I want a random number between 123 and 553 for no other reason than I can. I press enter, it's automatically generated. I drag the little box in the corner all the way down to the bottom row, and it automatically generates my passwords for me. Assuming you have your organizational units already done in G Suite, now it's time to put them in here. And you do that by going / students, that's the name of the unit that all of these students are going to belong to, and again, graduation year. Drag that cell down to the bottom. It copies the value of that cell all the way down. Now, here's a trick. If you press Command D, that will make all of the cells the same. So let's go through that again, will we? Organizational unit, / the name of the unit that these, or group that these students are going to belong to. I'm going to highlight or drag that all the way down to the bottom. Now here we go. I press Command D or Control D, and it'll make all of them identical. So that's a good one to remember. So while you're setting up usernames, now's the time to do it. Usernames can be set up for anything using this method. So usernames for your server, your books. A lot of places will say, will you give me an Excel sheet or a CSV file with the student's information on it? And they will go and set up the username for you. So this is how you do it. You simply click equals because we want everything in this cell to equal lower. So we want everything in this cell to be lowercase. We want everything after the bracket to be from column A. We also want a full stop in there, so you put and, open up inverted commas, full stop, close inverted commas, and we want everything from column B in there as well. Now we want the year that the student graduated, so we go and we open up inverted commas and put in the year that the student graduates, and we close inverted commas. Now everything from column A and column B is going to be combined into this column. We take our box, we drag it down to row 10, and that's our logins done. If you're manually creating logins, you're doing something wrong. So try and get used to this method. You won't look back, I promise you that. So you have the username set up. Now it's time to set up some passwords. So you go equals, but you want the passwords to be the same. So you click equals and then click on your column where the password lives. And now everything in column G is going to be the same as everything in column D. And it's that straightforward. So there's no other way to explain this other than everything we've created using a formula, the computer sees as a formula. So we need to change that. So what you're seeing here is I'm highlighting everything in the column, I'm copying it, but I'm not moving anywhere. I'm going to paste special, and I'm going to paste special, but I'm only going to paste the value of that column, which is the actual value that you see in front of you, not the formula that it took to put that value there. I really wish there was an easier way to explain that, but there isn't. Just remember, copy, don't move, paste special, and paste values only. If you have any questions, please let us know. We'd be delighted to help you. I'd be delighted to help you. If you found that helpful, please let me know. If you think there's an easier way of doing this, other than giving it to somebody else to do, then again, let us know. Thanks very much. Chat soon.